making good money, but still wondering where it all goes. Imagine feeling completely confident about your business finances. Jillian at JMV Financial Services provides more than just numbers. She empowers entrepreneurs to simplify their numbers, strengthen cash flow, increase profitability, and create a financial plan that supports the business and the life they've worked so hard to build. No more financial overwhelm, no more second guessing, just clarity, confidence, and a roadmap for lasting success. Ready to take control of your financial future? Scan the QR code and book your strategy call with Jillian today.
You're showing up. You're posting. You're speaking. You're doing everything they told you would grow your business. So why is it not converting? Because visibility is only half the equation. Getting attention is easy. Turning that attention into clients takes strategy. VoiceLab was built to solve that. This is where front-end visibility meets back-end conversion. You learn how to get on stages, create your own platforms, and use podcasts, summits, and workshops to grow your audience and generate real leads. Then you learn what most people never build. A system that captures those leads, follows up, nurtures relationships, and turns interest into revenue. Email and newsletter strategy that actually gets responses. Workflows, not just more noise. Real connection that leads to real business. Inside VoiceLab, you are not guessing. You're learning the how. You're implementing in real time. You're building a business that works even when you are not constantly chasing attention. Because here's the truth. If you don't have visibility, no one knows you exist. If you don't have systems, nothing converts. VoiceLab gives you both, so you can stop performing for attention and start building momentum that pays you back. If you are ready to grow your authority, expand your reach, and finally turn visibility into income, join the VoiceLab. Scan the QR code, join VoiceLab Group on the School platform, and build the business that actually works.
Welcome to a world of unforgettable experiences and immersive marketing. Transform your events into extraordinary moments that captivate your audience. Whether it's corporate gatherings, product launches, or community celebrations, our immersive marketing solutions elevate your events to new heights. Immerse your attendees in a world of audio books and podcasts tailored to your brand. Engage their senses and leave a lasting impression. Explore the power of storytelling with our curated podcast content. From insightful discussions to entertaining narratives, we've got the perfect audio experience for your event. Ready to make your next event unforgettable? Scan the QR code now and book a complimentary immersive marketing call with our experts. Let's create memories together. Elevate your events with immersive marketing. Scan the code and let the magic begin.
All right. Welcome back. It's another wonderful Wednesday, and we are on the Pain Point Podcast. It is so great to be here. I've got an amazing being with me today. I've got Dr. Stephanie Duguid here. She's amazing. And what do we got today? I want you guys to check out the sponsors, though. Jillian at JMV Financial, and reach out to her. She's an amazing being, a good person. Not only that, it's a great conversation. And you're going to talk about your finances. So it may be boring, it may not be fun, but at least you can have somebody that is lighthearted and interesting to talk to. And man, she's smart. So she's going to share everything with you. And also, if you're looking for some stages and you want to reach out to me, reach out in the DMs if you want, or reach out in the chat. You can reach out in my email. I'll put all the information in there, especially on LinkedIn. It's a lot easier to get a hold of me these days. Definitely on LinkedIn, and I will let you know if you want to get on some more stages, you're interested in VoiceLab and what's going on there. We've got some partners that are coming on and some sponsors that are coming into VoiceLab. So building the community and getting engagement in there and just kind of pivoting what we're doing on the stage and how we're sharing our message. So this is definitely part of it. And if you guys don't know me, I am Nicole Borghi. I'm your hostess with the mostest. I'm a virtual event strategist, just quite simply. I create events. I create these immersive events started in the wonderful world of virtual reality, creating my own time, space, and dimensional portal with this own great energy. But as a teacher, sharing with people not only how to create that ROI roadmap, but how to get in there, how to engage. And you can do it whether you're doing it in virtual reality or doing it simply on Zoom for a podcast or a workshop or a masterclass. You are branding. You are the best brand. That is absolutely it. I will say that forever and always, you are the voice and the face of your brand. And unless you've got a great assistant, a cohort, a vice president, however it works in your company that understands your mission and your purpose, you don't just want anybody being the face of your brand. And what goes better and what gets more viral attention is if you're in human form and you're coming on camera. And that's what even YouTube is pushing, more human contact, less AI. Believe it or not, I know some people don't always believe that, but yeah, we are in a world of AI, and though it's fun and I like the tech too, it's not always the answer. That's why those silly little car videos, I know you've all seen them. Drop a comment in there if you've seen those. People are having meltdowns. They are talking about how they didn't get the right ice in their morning mocha at McDonald's. What more can you expect? I don't know. But that's what's getting pushed out. That's what's going viral. It's humanity. We want you, good, bad, or indifferent, all the drama, all the good stuff, all the cheeky stuff, fun and all. We want you. And that's what your audience wants you there, because why? Because they can ask you the questions. They can get more personable with you. And that's the way that workshops are going. So let me bring in this wonderful cultural strategist and leader, this amazing transforming person, Miss Stephanie Duguid. So you share the audience a little bit about what you do.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I'm so glad to be here. A little bit about what I do. I'm a leadership culture strategist, which means I work with teams, organizations, and even individuals to really evaluate their culture. And when we talk about culture, you think about the clarity, communication, consistency, and connection. And as you just mentioned, although we have AI, we want that human connection. And it's the same thing in the workplace. So I help individuals really create that amazing culture so that people are engaged, they feel safe, and they want to stay, which in turn helps your revenue, helps your turnover, helps your bottom line.
It's a lot cheaper to keep that one employee, right? And are we forgetting if for those bean counters, hey, have we forgotten that it is, if you're just looking at it from a money standpoint, and I know that's boring, but as entrepreneurs, we do have to look at the finances. You're losing money. If it takes you 3,000, it took, I know when they hired and fired people, it took them ultimately $15,000 in 2003 to hire, to train, to close, to feed, to get all the benefits, to get the person in the room. So they wanted you to succeed. So that turnaround is your bottom line, but we are getting back to people. And why does this matter? So it's just crazy to me that people have forgotten that. And, your best, again, brand, it's all about branding. If your people aren't happy, that's why people are shopping online with Walmart and Amazon. Why? It's not because we all want those drones to come to our house. It's really that we don't want to deal with a bad customer service. You're not,
right.
Amazon's like, we don't want to deal with you, but we'll send you your cash back or we'll replace your product. Okay, fine. That's the bottom line. That's what we all want, right? We don't want to deal with somebody that can't talk to us. We don't want to deal with the AI tech bot and pressing the buttons. I mean, it's so married with children. Al on the phone for hours and hours, and he's pressing buttons to get to the right person. He's like, finally, he's getting on the call and he presses the wrong button and the phone hangs up. It's like 3 hours later. We've all been on those phone calls. So if we're looking at it from internal, our culture, our people, I know there's so much in politics going on with that, but the bottom line is people. And we forget about that, and we forget about what our passionate purpose is. And if we really want change in our community, if we really want to change our culture in our workspace, we have to find some type of way to get along and to toe the line. And so how do we do this? How does this work for people? I know you've got so much experience in it, and start wherever you like. but how do we get back to actually being in the same room with people and having a real conversation and being okay at work without having to like, oh my God, did I say the wrong thing? You're
Yes.
walking on eggshells and glass all the time, and it's miserable. And we've seen it. How do we get back to reality where we're actually having good conversations so we can get back to teaching or working or doing
Mhm.
business without worrying about, basically, I'll just say it candidly, worried about somebody's emotional feelings
Right.
at all
Right.
times.
Right. Well, there are so many things that I could share, but let me first start. You talked about the cost. So when you talk about running your workplace or your business, a lot of times we do put those blinders on, even as a leader. We think that, oh, everything's great, the job's getting done, the tasks are being checked off, we have the success we need or the numbers we need based on our data, everything's good. But when you really start to look at it, imagine that somebody just all of a sudden they say, I don't want to renew my contract, or I'm quitting, going for something that's better. There are some statistics that are just mind blowing. So $1 trillion, that's with a T, $1 trillion. That's the annual cost of voluntary turnover in US businesses. $1 trillion. And when you think about it, you're like, why are these people leaving? Well, 70% of those, the variance is in the team engagement, and it comes down to usually one person, which is that manager. And so, as a manager, as a leader, you have so much influence. I often call it the missed influence. Because when you walk into a situation, if you say, I'm the boss, I'm the lead, I have the name on the plaque, and you're speaking, you're assuming people are hearing you. You assume that they're understanding the story that you're sharing, but then they go off and do the task, the job, whatever they might do, and they come back and it's completely wrong, or it's not what you expected. And you blame the employee. But really, it comes back to the one providing the directions and the instructions. There was not clarity, the directions were not clear. There was not communication. There was a message that was missed. And if you treat one person versus another in a different way whenever you get different responses, then there's not consistency. And all of that affects connection. So it comes down to those four specifically in any situation, because culture is not accidental. It is shaped in everyday leadership, every message, expectations, decisions, conversations, every response, whether you respond versus react. And I always think of respond like a emergency responder. They're there to help you, to put life back in the situation. A reaction is like a nuclear reaction. It blows up in your face. And when you're that individual that you react, then those around you are going to think that you're going to be explosive every time they come, and they're not going to feel safe. They're not going to feel like you're going to listen to anything that they have to say. And that happens a lot.
It does. And the crazy thing that I've seen with this huge shift in the last 20, 26, 27 years since I've really been tracking it, from the police department to security, whether it was at a hotel or a casino that I've worked at as a
Mhm.
manager, or even as, now as an entrepreneur, it is so exhausting to have to baby the one person. It's like the one spoiled child, right? And now the rest of the family is just not getting support. And I've seen
Mhm.
this, and as a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday and connecting with them. And in that conversation, it was that the person in their business didn't have money to pay the coach, the strategist, the business strategist, the money
Mhm.
for their services, where they were going to share with them how to bring in money and ways to make money and grow and do successful so they can
Mhm.
support more people in the community. And that was the ultimate
Mhm.
goal. And the problem is that they were spending so much money, thousands of dollars to two different people and monthly, to people who weren't performing. They weren't doing their job because they felt bad for them. And they were
Mhm.
constantly catching up. And at what point do we stop and say, hey, not only is it affecting our bottom line financially, but it's so affecting the rest of the people in the room. Nobody wants to speak up. Nobody wants to
Mhm.
talk about it. It is just mentally, emotionally draining. And I work with a lot of energetic people, healers, and we talk about charisma and energy and that vibe that enters the room before you do. And you just suck the air out. I mean, you're like this, what is it? Emotional vampire. You're just draining people, sucking them dry. And it costs so much money. And the thing is if you're not looking at your business and you're not looking at your financials, let's look at the clients. It affects
Mhm,
your clients. It affects the people you do business with, whether
mhm,
it's your students, or the other teachers in a school or in a business. It really affects your bottom line in your business, and how do people support you because you're so drained. You're so drained when you come to a call. You're so drained when you hold an event. You're so drained chasing these people around, running yourself ragged, that it shows, and people don't want to work with you. They don't
mhm.
feel seen and heard by you.
That's right.
Let's talk about the effect on that, if you would, in a way of leadership for the business,
Mhm.
how draining that can be.
Well, it is massively draining. Whenever you talk about those difficult conversations, I'm going to go back for just a minute. You talked about people avoiding difficult conversations. 70% of employees avoid difficult conversations with a boss, colleague, or a direct report. 70%. Because we always think it has this negative connotation. We are scared or have fear as to what we think is going to happen without actually having the conversation. And when we do that, we delay it. And the more time that happens between the incident and the conversation, the more negativity fills it. John Gordon always said, where there is a gap in communication, negativity will fill it. And that's enormously true whenever you talk about difficult conversations. And so, whenever you do that, you also have to think about your employee engagement. And you mentioned it. You spend 80% of the time dealing with 20% of the employees who are, for lack of a better term, the challenges or the problems or the ones that are stirring things up. In fact, there's more than 7 hours of lost time per week for employees because of poor communication or not making sure that you address that issue. So the other side of it is, as a leader or somebody that simply has influence, you don't have to have a title to be a leader. It's anybody that has influence on somebody else. For that individual, your level of energy is just like your cell phone battery. When it's full, everything seems great. You've got that energy, but whenever it comes down, performance starts to wane. You're not getting things done as quickly as you were. People are getting frustrated with you, and you need to unplug or recharge just like everybody else. You can't give from an empty cup. So, whenever you are that individual who is in that leadership space, one of the best things that I can encourage you to do is to take time and breathe. Just simply breathe. Taking in a deep, full breath, getting up from your computer or your workspace and taking a few steps around the office. Or if you have a place where you can move more than that, go climb a flight of stairs, go walk outside, touch the grass, get in connection with, the earth, whatever it might be. But take a few minutes so that you can get centered and grounded. My background is in sports medicine, so I look at things a little bit differently. And when I was in a leadership position, I didn't take care of myself. I was in charge of the workplace wellness program for the whole campus, but I didn't take care of myself because I was so busy taking care of everyone else. And that affected my own health, whether it was illness or weight gain or what have you. And so I encourage the leaders, you always say, I don't have enough time for this, or we've got this meeting, or we have this other thing that we have to tend to. Take a minute, close your door, take a deep breath. Get up and stretch, the power pose, open up your chest, reach your arms up behind your head. And also have a walking meeting. Say, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's get out of the office and just go for a walk or walk around the house or walk around your yard. What's going to happen then is those that work with you, they're going to see you model this and go, oh, it's okay for me to take a break from work and have a glass of water or to go get a snack or to go walk around or to have a conversation. It's okay for me to do that. And if you're a leader that you model positive behavior and you encourage positive behavior, say, you know what, you've been working on that so hard. Please take a break. Come walk with me. Let's just have a conversation. Let's talk about something else. And then you come back. That does two things. One, the individual says, all right, my leader really cares about me. Oh my gosh, they're okay if I take a break. But that's also showing that you are human, that the human is coming first. It's not all about policies. It's not all about procedures. It's not all about the black and white. Because if you don't take care of your people, then the rest is going to die.
100%. You have to take care of you. And if we're constantly talking about healthy boundaries, you want to be healthy. How do we get healthier? That's why people leave their business. That's why they leave their job. They leave the corporation. We've swung so far. I mean, years ago when I was younger and grew up in Silicon Valley, Hewlett Packard would have they would have company picnics with kids. They would bring the kids in. They would set up booths, and we would have games, and we would have a barbecue, and we would just have it in the redwoods, this whole day thing, because they wanted the family to be part of it, right? Bring your kid to
Right.
work. But you're changing the relationship of what it means to work for these people, because it is technical. And that's the 10 and a half floppy disk, right? And the green screen back in
Yeah.
the day of Pong. And there's a lot of tech stuff, and they knew that they needed a balance back then. And we need a balance. And I remember watching, if you would drive through Silicon Valley, you drive through Santa Clara was the main part of it, where they had a lot of the tech companies. You would see people out to lunch. They would go walking. They would take an hour to 2 hour break throughout their day. It did lengthen some part of their day sometimes, but they would go for a walk. They would all have lunch together. People would get outside, have a different shift and experience. And the great thing is if you're going for a walk, this was before the cell phones, nobody was recording you. You can have a private conversation if you need to complain and get it off your chest, and then come back and feel so rejuvenated. Like, hey, I'm having a bad moment. How do I fix this? It wasn't like
Yes.
people weren't telling you. They were showing you and they were mentoring you. And if we could just bring back some mentorship again and some guidance, the wisdom, the wise person that you look to say, hey, you've been in this job or you've been in this business for a few years. Can I get some good, maybe you can give me some good guidance. Share with me what way to go, how to show up here. What's the best thing that I should say instead of screaming and crying at my boss or the person I'm working with? Or nowadays, if you're the entrepreneur and you're the CEO of your company or the founder, instead of bringing it out to the people you're coaching or your clients, you want to take that moment and just get that off your chest somewhere else at a different time and let that go and have healthy boundaries so you come back and you're having a better relationship with these people. I mean, for years, my career was firing people. I was called into businesses that were extremely chaotic. And I was into sites as a security manager. I was an area supervisor, and I was there coming in there and had to put the black hat on and say, look, we're going to retrain you. We're going to retrain your people. We're going to bring you back, and everybody's going to make sure that we all have the same training. I'm not going to paper you out. I'm going to talk to the team together and talk to the team separately. What do you feel you need? What is your weakness? What's your strongest point? So we can delegate and give respect back to the manager so you can have respect at your job. So we can have a safe environment, because if you're having a bad day, that's not good to show up publicly because you're the security guard. You can't do anything good. You can't be observant. You can't be there. You can't be on your best behavior. What do you need? What kind of training do you need? How can we serve you so you can serve us and the client at the same time? Because we were outsourced through the business. Otherwise, there was a lot of showing up to sites and firing people. And unfortunately, that was the bad part. And then ended up having to turn managers, company managers at the top to say, hey, this is going on consistently. What are we doing here? You got chaos. And a lot of times when we talk just on a leadership perspective, people don't see that sometimes leaders allow the chaos to get way out of hand because if the employee is the problem, and you let that squeaky wheel make all that noise and everybody's mad at that person, they're not paying attention to what's happening behind the scenes. They're not paying attention to
Right.
and that's a huge problem coming in there, and that causes that the consternation between each other and saying, hey, we are going against each other, and it comes down to what is best for the company and looking at it that way. And if we're just looking at it from a leadership perspective, if you own a business and you can't delegate, you're not strong. Who's going to take you seriously? What does that look like, to you? So in this, when we're looking at this and saying, hey, how can we do this to build our communities? Because it absolutely shows into communities. For me, looking at it from the nonprofit perspective, even just as a chairwoman of Confronting Domestic Violence, to say, look, we want to build the home. We want to make people have a safe space, have a good space. We got to help them, with healthy boundaries. Once they get where they need to be, how do they move on? How do they have a business or a life, or go back to school and do all these great things? We have to rebuild the community, and I really we find that it is what works best for people to rebuild that community is to be part of that community and show, truly, with that, showing in the community how we can be the mentors, how we can be leaders and lead by example and share this is what we're doing. These are the steps we took. And how can we help you be constructive with this instead of just constantly complaining about the constant fear? How do we switch that and say, hey, you talk about conscious leadership and communication. How do we really switch that? And what should we look at moving on? I mean, we can always hire another coach, but that doesn't necessarily fix the problem. How do we fix it from a wider lens?
There are so many parts and pieces to what you're asking. So I'm going to try to go in kind of a flow as we go through. One of the things, first and foremost, is if you have a team, I encourage you first get out of your office. Don't have an agenda, just walk through the space, whether it's where individuals are working or where they're eating or where they're chatting. And you can feel culture. When you even mentioned it earlier, you can feel it. You can feel if it's joyful and happy and they're asking you questions and they're chatting with you as you walk through, and people feel free to share ideas. And you can feel if it's really negative or horrible. People are focused. They're not looking up. They're not asking any questions. They have terrible body language or even posture. They feel stressed. That in itself is going to tell you a lot about your culture and about your relationship with those you work with. Because if you have the first piece and they're happy and excited, then you're probably on a good road. If you walk in and it's very negative, they ignore you, they don't want to look at you, they think that you're there for only for a reason, for some sort of negative reason, then you've got a lot of work to do. So that's the first thing, is one, recognizing that things are going on. The other piece is sometimes leaders just don't even care. We have a lot of selfish leaders that they don't care what is said. They don't care how people feel. They don't want to hear the feedback. So first and foremost, you have to be that selfless leader that you want your culture to get better. And there's a lot of reflection that happens. You have to be open to feedback, and you have to be open to hearing things that you might not want to hear. So those are the first two pieces that we need to work on. Then as you're going through, you mentioned that some individuals are burned out or they're overworked or they might be disengaged. Right now, more than 55% of full-time employees are burned out. It's the highest rate in more than 6 years since COVID. And whenever that happens, there's usually a lot of underlying pieces. Burned out is not the only problem. It's usually the signal that there's something much deeper. And it could be unclear expectations, inconsistent messages, unresolved tension, unsustainable ways of working. But what does that all come down to? Communication. And so if there's nothing else that we focus on as a leader, it is the way we communicate. Now, most people assume that I'm talking, you're listening, we're communicating, right? But communication is so much bigger than that. It's about not only the words, but also the tone, the intonation, the delivery, your body language, your facial expressions, as well as the environment that you're in. So when you're speaking to somebody, we think, hey, yeah, I speak well. I communicate well with individuals. But most of the time, we're thinking about how we're communicating when things are going great. But how do you communicate when it's a stressful situation, or when you've been surprised by something at work, or when somebody does something that you don't like? What is your communication like then? Is it still open and welcoming, or are you sharp and reactive? So first and foremost is look at your communication. How are you engaging those individuals that are around you? Are you demanding? Are you dictating? Are you directing them to do something specific? Or are you asking for their feedback and making sure that they understand what you're trying to share? I always say that communication is like a glass vase. So if I have a glass vase, which is my message, and I want to pass that glass vase to you, that message to you, I want to communicate or give you so much information that when I pass my message or my glass vase, that it's not going to break. But the key is that when I pass it, I'm not going to release that message or that glass vase until I know you have fully grasped it so it doesn't break. We don't communicate in that way. We don't make sure that the message is completely understood, knowing all the parameters, all the expectations, all the guidelines. And that's where a lot of this breaks down. So I would start off first and foremost with communication. And then if you do have those one-on-ones with individuals, listen. Just listen. Ask a question and pause. Don't expect an answer right away. Don't answer for them. Listen. Because a lot of times that pause will help bring the solution or resolve the challenge right away. There were some individuals that I worked with that would come to me for a lot of different things. And they would say, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do here. Which direction should I go? What do I do here? I started having monthly meetings and we would sit down at a round table. So it wasn't a big square boxy table, a round table where we were equals. And they would say, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm not quite sure what to do. And I'd say, what are your thoughts? I'm not answering it for them. What are your thoughts? Well, I thought about going in this direction, but we have this, that, and the other. And I said, well, did you think about X, Y, and Z? And they go, oh, no, I didn't. Or, oh, yes, I did. So here's my answer to that. If you ask those leading questions and allow them to come up with a solution, then the response is going to be so much better because one, you're listening. Two, you're creating that trust. And three, it's a safe space. So as long as you have those things together, whenever you're communicating with somebody and you allow them to do their job, checking in every once in a while, making sure that we're on the same path together, we have the same vision in mind, you're going to have such a better relationship with those individuals that you're working with. It just takes time. And that's what people say they don't have is time.
I think a lot of people don't have time because they're so overwhelmed and stressed out.
Yes.
And and
Yes.
and that's the only answer you can safely say without getting
Mm-hmm.
ostracized from the group. And really, I love this because it's, going from a business where I was kicking people out and firing people. Now I'm in this business where I'm bringing people together and finding the communication. So when we're talking about conscious leadership, it is about
Mm-hmm.
communication. And it's really not about, instead of saying, hey, I've got to discipline someone, which people don't like to do at the ultimate end, but they want to patronize them or mother them to death and
Mm-hmm.
answer for them. And it can get so frustrating, like, hey, I'm coming to you. So when they're sitting in that round table, they're saying, hey, I have an answer, but people have felt so unheard that they don't know if it's okay to give an answer anymore. They're not allowed to
Yeah.
have the thought process anymore.
Well, and a lot of that comes down to the leader. If the leader is a selfish leader, they're there for themselves, they have their own outcomes, their own plan, their own agenda, then that's a challenge. They might not ever listen to those around them. But if you have someone that maybe is an emerging leader and maybe they are emulating somebody that they've seen that was kind of aggressive, but they're wanting to do something about it. So they stop, they shift. And as you mentioned, the term conscious leadership, again, my background is sports and medicine. So when I think conscious, I think awake, alive, energetic versus
Mhm.
unconscious, meaning you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care what happens. They're hitting their mark. Positivity. Everything is great on the outside. We're getting all the awards and accolades and everybody celebrates, but on the inside, everybody is miserable. So conscious leadership is still about the clarity, connection, communication, and consistency. But it is that you are consciously, intentionally involved in that process, working to make it better every single day. A lot of times when there are issues, we talked about them being underlying issues. What several leaders do that I've come across is they try to do like the emergency repair kit. Let me put a piece of duct tape on that issue, or let me put a cone out so that we can avoid it for right now, or whatever it might be, something temporary. But as a leader, If you want to have that leadership toolkit, maybe there's that one squeak over here in this other department. And if you twist it and turn it just right and make sure that you get that line of communication open, it's going to fix the whole thing. Or if you share the why we're doing this process, then individuals go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or if people perceive that you're treating one person different than another because they don't know the rest of the story, perhaps you have to share something, maybe nothing that's confidential that you're not allowed to share, but share something so that there's an understanding as to why there may not be consistency. Because again, where there's a gap in communication, negativity is going to fill it. We're going to fill it with whatever ideas we have. But here's the other key. We assume that people are thinking exactly what we're thinking. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, grew up in a huge city. So my perspectives and experiences are different than somebody that may have grown up here where I am, which is in a very small town in Mississippi, less than 2,000 people. We have one four-way stop with a flashing light in this town. So when people say here, oh my gosh, can you believe the traffic? They're thinking there's 3 or 4 cars at the stop sign, maybe a cow or a tractor or something. I'm thinking of I-10 and Beltway 8 with 27 lanes across the traffic and it's bumper to bumper. So as you're communicating, everybody has a story going on in their head, but their story is based on their personal experiences and perspectives. So as you're sharing something, you have to realize that they're not from where you're from. They didn't experience everything. They didn't grow up where you were. They haven't had the same jobs. They might not have the same knowledge that you have. So it's so important that you are as clear as, I mean, almost ad nausea, that you are so clear that they really understand what the expectations are. Because when they don't, that's when it goes downhill.
Well, that's just it. And it's set the expectations. It's not just now everybody's SOP, standard operating procedures. We forgot policies and procedures. There's a reason there's a policy, and the procedure explains why that policy. And I see this all the time, especially with managers or business owners. You're no longer in a brick and mortar business talking to people and showing them a certain mentorship. So there's something engaging that they're missing. So we have to talk about why we have this procedure in place, why it needs to be tweaked, and a little bit behind this. And this is what you say to, no, don't stop sharing everybody's personal private stuff. Stop doing that. What's healthier is explaining like, hey, Sandy's going to be doing this project. And maybe just simply, quite simply starting with, as you know, not stating like, hey, you don't have to state the obvious as a leader. I've decided that this is the reason I'm delegating this task to Sandy is because this is her strength. Whereas your strength, Bobby, is A, B, and C. But if Bobby starts to him and ha, you can say, hey, do you feel that there is something you would like to learn from Sandy so that you can try that? Because you want to delegate to people's strengths, but you also want to develop the team so you can work with a stronger team doing, hiring less people, because we are a business as entrepreneurs. You want to keep a smaller team, just financially. Not everybody can hire everybody. However, if you clarify and tweak, why do you need to do this? Not patronizing. Well, it makes her feel good. Don't do that. Talk about, talk in a healthy way, professionally to people so that they do understand it. Doesn't mean you have to dumb it down as in, that motherly kind of manner, like, oh, well, that's just the way it is. People don't want to hear that. They just really need to bring them up. If you want to bring your team up and you really want a stronger team, you need to focus more on the professionalism that they can understand you at that level. You're not speaking legal terms, but you are talking to them at a professional level where they can hear you and understand you and communicate with you and understand that, hey, this is why this person is getting that. And that can be brought out in the round table, right? Person A was hired for social media. Person B was hired for commercials, right? And but you do have to talk to each other, because if you distance them, then they're pulling your strings. So we've talked about a lot of, perhaps mistakes that people are making and wanting to do more communication. And that doesn't always mean that you have to break down in every meeting and bring your baggage, right? That's a
No,
private moment. Don't bring that to the table.
That's right. And one thing that you touched on much earlier was the emotions that go along with everything in the workplace. Because a lot of times we're not just dealing with what's at hand on our desk. We have kids, we have family, we have health issues, we've got world issues, whatever else is intersecting with your space is going to affect you. And so there's something called emotional intelligence, and this is a very popular term that everybody uses. But emotional intelligence simply is being able to understand and recognize your own emotions, and also being able to understand and recognize emotions of others and in groups. And so, as a leader, if you don't understand your own emotions and all of a sudden you blow up at every situation, and you're not controlling your emotions or understanding what's going on, that's where you're going to start to have the breakdown, even before anything else happens. Because what clinically happens is when you get input from your five senses, it automatically goes to your emotional center in your brain before it hits your logical center. And so that's why I always say pause. Make sure that you pause. Don't react right away. Just pause, take a breath, and respond, because that gives you a moment to take all the information in before it goes to the logical space. And you can go, okay, now I have the information I need right now. There might be more I need, but now I can respond. So emotional intelligence is huge. And you have some individuals, and I've seen these, and my kids were in high school, and you see this with some of the girls. They're like, I don't know why I'm crying. Like they can't explain what's going on with their body, but or their brain, whatever it might be. It's you have to understand where your emotions are coming from, what the root is, what the trigger is, so that you can go, okay, now I understand what's going on. Now whenever I experience that, this will be my response. Rather than crying, I'm going to do this other response: take a walk, get a breath, take a drink of water, what have you. But it's understanding your emotions, and that is such an important part of influencing others, again, with or without a title, with or without a big corner office. But anytime you're influencing somebody else, understanding emotional intelligence is another key piece with that communication.
Absolutely. And if you don't bring all that baggage to the table, people are more apt to listen to you. It's going to shift the culture, it's going to shift the business, it's going to lighten the load. You'll find that there's more productivity and that people are willing to pick up other jobs, they're willing to start new tasks, they're willing to run with the ball instead of hiding, right? On the
Yes.
sidelines at all time. And it builds it stronger, and there's more energy, there's more communication. Now you have more time to get your job done because you can trust that those people you delegated that job to and that task to will get that job done.
That, and also if there is a challenge, if there is something that comes up, that there's a disagreement, how do you approach that? It's not assuming one person versus another, or not assuming that something went wrong. It is asking for understanding. Help me understand how this situation occurred, or what is more information that you need to share with me so that we can make a better decision. So, making sure that you ask those questions in a calming voice. You're not accusatory, you are honestly wanting to know more. And there are so many strategies you can use, especially with difficult conversations, that make them so that they're not so difficult, not so challenging. But really, it's understanding and making sure that we have clear communication and we get the rest of the story. As Paul Harvey would always say, here's the rest of the story. But when you do that, that's what also helps with the trust, with building those relationships, with all of those other pieces. And lastly, something that we haven't even talked about is celebrating or acknowledging people whenever they do a job well done. You don't have to throw a party or everybody gets a certificate. I'm not saying everybody gets a trophy. I mean, that is not what I'm saying at all. But if somebody has worked really hard and they produced a great product, tell them, oh my gosh, this is an incredible job. You read my mind. What a great thing that you did. Even writing a handwritten note. People keep handwritten notes. I keep them for years. I had one of my mother was known for handwriting her notes, and one of her students from the 70s sent me copies of handwritten notes that my mother wrote her from 1975. I mean, people keep those things.
Wow.
So just a small task of writing a handwritten note or saying thank you or giving them a chocolate on their desk saying, I see you today. Or if they're having a hard day, acknowledging that they're having a hard day and that you're there to support them if they need anything at work. whatever it might be, it's just humanizing the workplace. Again, I know we have policies, procedures. I know we have standard operating procedures. I know that we have manuals that we have to follow and tasks we have to follow and mission statements and vision statements and all of these other things. But let's not forget about the people or the humans involved.
Well, that's just it. So in this world where we're bringing AI in, what's the human factor, right? And instead, we can't do like we did in the academy. If people are having a bad day and they're not getting the instruction in the class that day, we'd go out for a run and burn it out, right? Or drop from a couple like 30-foot building or something, and do some PT to really just be like, okay, you think this is tough
Yeah.
here, mentally, emotionally, let's get out of that space, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So talking about a few good things and solutions, right? So bringing up the honest conversation and the communication, the emotional intelligence, and the reward, right? You can't don't reward everything, because then people don't understand when they're not doing something right. They need to know also that maybe that's a fail for the company or just not something that's working well. And
Yes.
then and acknowledging people. And then when you acknowledge as the leader or the business owner, you acknowledge those employees and you're doing it publicly. When you bring that to front, then people understand your expectations and what you're looking for as well. So not just the failures, but the good things. So the scores. So what can other people expect? So in your communication collection here that you're sharing with people to access the collection, what are the successes or the solutions that they can find with that?
So this is a collection of 3 different resources that I'm providing to you. The first one, you're going to determine your communication personality. And everybody has a different personality, and you probably know who those are. So you have one individual that maybe they are the dictator. They're the ones that they tell you what to do. They know exactly what they want. They're very short in their conversation, and that's just how they're going to be. You have others that are just, oh, they want to socialize all the time. And, they don't really care if the work gets done. Oh, we can do that tomorrow. But how was your weekend? And how are your kids? And how are your dogs and everything else? Then you have some that are very task oriented. They really want to do a good job. And then you have others that are somewhere in between, but they are really focused on making sure that everybody is taken care of. So, whatever area you are, there's a little quiz that's in there where you can determine your communication personality. And when you do that and you recognize the personality of those you're speaking with, it'll help you with your conversation. It'll help you when you're organizing teams, because you don't want all the dictators in one team together. Nothing's going to get done because everybody will want it done their way. And you don't want all the socialites in a group because nothing will get done at all. You'll have to do it anyway. So making sure that you understand communication personality, that helps you organize your teams, that helps you communicate with them better, because you'll probably change your message in the way that you communicate with them. You'll have to ask different questions. You'll have to look at different markers. There's also things about celebrations that are in there. So, celebrating success. And again, when you are at a meeting, one of the things that I would always love to do at the beginning is, what is a win that you had for this week? Doesn't matter how big or small. I don't care if you got up 5 times this week without hitting the snooze alarm. That's a win for some people. Others, it might be that they completed a massive project or something. Somebody else might have something personal with one of their children or a family member. But celebrate a win and celebrate that together. And then highlight things that are going well in your area. What also tends to happen that I have found, and this will help with that, is we get in silos between our departments and our divisions. And we don't always know what's going on. We don't always know what's going on somewhere else. A lot of times what's happening in division A is directly affected by what's happening in division B. And if you're not connecting, if you're not collaborating, if you're not having those conversations, then you might be working on 2 separate projects that are going in opposite directions when they really need to come together. So making sure that you have those open lines. So they're going to get the communication personality. They're going to learn how to really have those conversations with individuals. And if it's not in there already, I'm also going to add the difficult conversation starters. So there are 20 different statements or phrases that are very helpful when you're having a challenging conversation. Some individuals, they have to say, well, I feel that you are this. If I were in your shoes, I would have felt the same way. However, the fact is, and you tell them the rest. So there's just things like that that are in there. And of course, they help me understand or tell me more about that. But sometimes when you are in those difficult conversations, you are scattered for words because you're anxious. So this is just a way that you have a few resources in front of you as you move along. And there's also meeting structure guidelines. So when you're having a meeting, what is a great way to create an agenda, or what some consistency pieces that you need in your meetings so that everybody feels seen, everybody feels heard, and you're going to be comfortable and collaborate moving forward. So it's going to be a cohesive team.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And anything else? We still have a few minutes. This is a great conversation. And I
Yes.
absolutely love that you're willing to go deeper and let's have more of a critical conversation of what it looks like. Because even for entrepreneurs, if we don't want the bureaucracy. You don't want the government in your home. You don't want the government with all these laws in your business. If you don't want the corporation, you left the corporation. If you've escaped corporate America, you don't want to bring that to your business. So why bring all the baggage with it?
That's
And
right.
remember that we are looking for a change, and more positive change. And this coming online for me is a different perspective. I'm not rescuing people. I get the chance to, I don't feel like I have to triage all the time. But now, now I can say, hey, we can have an honest conversation. We can have a good, healthy conversation, have a few laughs. What would you like to leave the audience with? I'll give you the last words on this.
Oh goodness. I think that just realizing that we are all humankind. And so the key is to be kind to humans. And of course, focusing on that conscious leadership with clarity, connection, communication, and consistency. And I don't just share this, I actually am creating it in a community that I'm building right now. It's called Creating Culture on Purpose. And so sometimes you have to get out of your space where you're working, or those that you're always dealing with on a regular basis, and have somebody's outside perspective or share information outside to get really good feedback. So I encourage anyone that is interested, join the Creating Cultures on Purpose, where it's a safe space to learn more about culture itself. But we also have opportunities where you can share a challenge that you might have, keeping names out of it, keeping organization names out of it, but a challenge you might have. And there might be somebody in that community that has a different perspective that can help you overcome that challenge or help you address that conversation a little bit better. So I invite everyone to come join me on the school platform, the Do Good leadership community called Creating Culture on Purpose.
If you like, you can drop that link in here and I can absolutely share it on the live stream and all the other information, or you can share it with me later and I can add that to the description anywhere.
Yes.
Definitely start having more conversations, right? We need to actually have a conversation, and share this and not just talk about it, but show the stats and the data to move the needle that there is a change. And so look for those statistics. That's where statistics help and the data collection helps, is that when you're looking for the change, that you could see the progression in the
Yes.
change.
Well, one of the things that I also offer is called a culture pulse check. There's a fee associated with it, depending on how large your organization, very small fee, but it's an anonymous, emoji-based, non-threatening assessment that you can give to your individuals to get true feedback about how they feel the culture is. And it's going to deal with those four areas: communication, consistency, connection, and clarity. And we can see where the breakdown is in real time. So you get that feedback, it gives you objective data as to how individuals are feeling, and then you can start to build your culture from there. Where do we need to start? What do we need to work on? But you have to be that selfless leader that is willing to get that feedback in order to make that change.
Awesome. Well, great conversation. Yes, be the leader yourself, right? So you can definitely make that change and be part of that. So if you want to see people change and you're really questioning why, sometimes it's just a simple reflection on yourself to do what can I do to change? How can I make that change in myself to show that? And to see that there's needs to be a shift or a change in there. I put all your information in there. I've got your website, your LinkedIn. Oh, I do have the school community. I did have that link and I have shared that. So definitely, guys, reach out to Dr.
Yes.
Stephanie. It's been an amazing conversation. This way, we don't just talk about the pain points, but we've also talked about several solutions. And culture is wherever you're at. It's your community, however you've built your community, whether it's your school, your Facebook, your LinkedIn community, wherever your group is at, wherever your team is at. This definitely changes the perspective on how we can make that change and not just be nice and be the doormat, but be kind. That does show some more strength. And so don't be the
Yes,
doormat, right? In the
that's right.
whoever you are, truly be a leader and understand to get respect, you have to give respect. So thank you guys. All right, we'll see you next Wednesday.